They told me cats don't have emotions. They said animals can't love the way we do. But then, I met Bella. What happened next changed everything I thought I knew about love and loss. This story isn't about a regular cat. It's about an unlikely bond that grew out of nowhere and turned my world upside down. It's about how one small, abandoned kitten became the heart of my life, and how she was taken away from me in a way I never could have imagined. If you've ever loved a pet, or thought you couldn't, this story will break your heart and piece it back together, all in one breath. I never wanted a cat. To be honest, I didn't even like them much. I always thought they were cold, detached, and indifferent. Growing up, my family never had pets, and the idea of connecting with an animal on an emotional level just didn't make sense to me. I was the kind of person who thought, it's just a cat. How much could it really matter? But one cold winter night changed everything. It was December, and I was walking home after a long, exhausting day. My breath hung in the freezing air, and the streets were eerily quiet. That's when I heard it. A faint, desperate cry coming from the alley. I stopped, listened again. The sound was unmistakable. A kitten. I told myself to keep walking. I wasn't a cat person. But the cries got louder, more urgent. It was like something was pulling me toward that alley, something I couldn't explain. Against all logic, I followed the sound. And there she was, shivering and barely moving, hidden behind a pile of trash. Her fur was matted, and her tiny body was trembling. I remember standing there, my heart pounding, thinking, I can't leave her here, but I'm not a cat person. Yet my feet moved on their own. I picked her up, and in that instant she stopped shaking. She looked at me with the saddest, most vulnerable eyes I had ever seen, and in that moment, something inside me shifted. I took her home, wrapped her in an old blanket, and sat with her for hours. I didn't know what to do, but somehow it felt right. I named her Bella. I still wasn't sure why I did it, or what I was getting myself into, but for the first time in a long time, I felt needed. Like there was a reason I had found her that night. Days turned into weeks, and Bella started to heal. Her fur grew back, her eyes brightened, and before I knew it, she was a different cat. Playful, curious, full of life. But what really surprised me was how much she filled my life. She followed me everywhere, sat beside me while I worked, slept on my chest every night. It wasn't long before she was more than just a pet. She was family. But as time went on, something else changed. Bella wasn't just happy and playful anymore. She seemed to know when I was sad, when I needed her the most. I'd come home after tough days, and she'd curl up next to me, purring softly as if to say, I'm here. You're not alone. I remember one night, after a particularly rough day, I sat on the couch, head in my hands, feeling like the weight of the world was too much. Bella jumped onto my lap, nuzzled her head into my chest, and let out the most comforting purr I had ever heard. It was like she knew I was hurting in a way no one else could see. In that moment, I realized that she wasn't just a cat. She was my companion, my comfort, my constant. But life has a way of taking away the things we love the most, right when we need them. One morning, Bella wasn't herself. She didn't get up to greet me like she always did. She didn't follow me to the kitchen, didn't curl up on my lap. Something was wrong. I rushed her to the vet, terrified of what they might say. The diagnosis hit me like a train. Bella had a heart condition, one that had been silently growing inside her, unnoticed all this time. The vet told me there wasn't much we could do. I remember standing there, in that cold, sterile room, my hands shaking, my heart racing, thinking, no, not Bella, not her. The next few weeks were a blur. I did everything I could, every treatment, every medication. I stayed up late, holding her, whispering to her, telling her she'd be okay, that she couldn't leave me now. But deep down, I knew. I knew she didn't have much time left. The day she passed was the darkest day of my life. I held her in my arms as she took her last breath, and in that moment, it felt like my heart was being ripped out of my chest. The house felt empty, too quiet, too cold. Everywhere I looked, I saw her. The spot on the couch where she used to nap, the windowsill she loved, her favorite toy still lying on the floor. It's been months now since Bella left me, but I still feel her presence every day. People say she was just a cat, but they don't understand. Bella was more than that. She taught me how to love in a way I never thought possible. She showed me that animals aren't just pets, they're family. They feel our pain, they share our joy, and when they're gone, they leave a hole in our hearts that nothing else can fill. Losing Bella was the hardest thing I've ever experienced, but I wouldn't trade the time we had together for anything. She came into my life when I needed her most, and she left me with a gift I'll carry forever: the knowledge that love comes in all forms, even from the smallest, furriest of friends. If Bella's story touched your heart, and if you believe animals are more than just pets, hit that subscribe button. Let's share more stories of love, loss, and the incredible bonds we build with our furry friends.